Hi, I'm Tony Fair, founder of Victorian Grooming Company. Is your beard feeling dry or the skin underneath itchy? Maybe you'd rather soften and tame your beard instead. Our classic collection of beard oils, balms, and soaps will leave your beard looking, feeling, and smelling amazing. And if you prefer shaving, our pre-shave oils and shave soaps will give you a smooth and razor burn-free shave. Handmade in Edmonton with natural ingredients. Visit victoriangrooming.com.
Ni hao, привет, konnichiwa, sawadi krap. Hello, this is Granto, the Pearl's Papa G. Welcome to Tell Craig Your Story podcast. Thanks for listening.
Hi guys, Craig here. Welcome to another edition of the podcast, Tell Craig Your Story. This is part 2 of my conversation with Grant O on Tell Craig Your Story podcast. How does this fit into then deciding to move to Japan?
I went to school to get a Bachelor of Commerce degree.
Right.
So I majored in international business and marketing. And when I was at the U of A in Edmonton, I was part of an international student business organization called ISEC.
Right.
And ISEC's amazing. You know ISEC?
This one? Yeah.
Yeah, over 500 universities at that time, 50-some countries involved. And yeah, what they do is they offer international traineeships.
Yes.
And you can do a summer job, or when you graduate, you can do a one-year thing or whatever. So I got heavily involved with that and into the National Congress of ISEC. And again, I really wanted to change who I was and get involved in anything I could get involved in. And through them, you go through a whole process and you apply and whatnot. And you have to list 3 countries. And in fact, I wrote Japan, Australia, Japan. Because for me, being Canadian, I love being Canadian. I'm proud of being Canadian, what Canada stands for. But I also felt at that time, I felt a lack of history.
Right.
You know, we're a young nation. Who are we? What are we?
That's true.
You know, one of the biggest identifying factors is we're not an American. You know, we're not USA. We're Canadian. We are different. Yes. We have a very strong British influence in our education, in our spelling,
that's right,
in our entertainment, and our humor.
Color.
Yes, very much so. So for me, I actually really wanted to get to, like, Japan was always a fascination for me.
Yes.
And I really wanted to be a part of that culture and experience it. So I was lucky enough to get selected by IBM to go there on a 1-year traineeship. And it was such an incredible experience because it was me and 25 other ISEC students all working together at IBM Asia Pacific headquarters in Tokyo.
Wow.
And so I have all these people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And we're all together. And so we all working for different departments, this and that. And of course, we all get together and party our asses off every night because we're 22 years old in a new nation.
What else do you do?
And it was friggin' brilliant. It was so much fun.
So you were in Tokyo, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what was really lucky was I started IBM on my second day in Tokyo. And at my welcoming lunch, I met my future wife, Kang, from Thailand.
Wow.
And then we were at a sushi restaurant, and she came walking in. I still remember exactly what she was wearing, exactly how she looked. And I just went, this is the most exotic woman I've ever seen in my life. Yes. It was amazing. But yeah, and then luckily we were friends, and we worked together for a long time. And then luckily, just before she was to go back to Thailand, there was 13 of us, me and another Canadian, organized a ski trip for all these Asians who'd never seen snow before. And like my best friend at the time, he was Indian, George. He'd never seen snow in his life. He'd always dreamed of snow. Wow. And we had guys from Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, and whatnot. And we drove up to Nagano. And the first stop we had to stop, pull over the road so George and everybody could get out and taste snow. He had to just go face first into the snow. But anyways, it was thanks to that ski trip where finally a Canadian in his element skiing in the snow and everything else, finally that and my Indian roommate and a bottle of rum and rye, which I still keep here at the home as a treasured item, that gave me up with enough courage to kind of approach my future wife after 8 months of being in love. And so we've been together now 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So thank you, Isaac. Thank you, George, and whatnot. So anyways, after the 1 year traineeship with IBM, they offered me a full-time job. I had an amazing director, Kate Fickle, who was one of the biggest influences in my life. And also really, I think she changed my attitude and the power of women, and also sometimes how they're not regarded well. Because she was always considered the Iron Lady or the bitch or the Dragon Lady. And I worked with her, and she was amazing. She worked harder than anybody else to get where she was. And she also she respected me more than all the other male bosses I had later. Like, she respected me in a work capability. All the male bosses I had after that point wanted me my buddy. Wanted me my friend. And I'm like, screw you, challenge me.
Yes.
I'm young. I want to learn. I want to fight. I want to do stuff. So I think she instilled a lot in that to this day, I'm all about woman empowerment and trying to help things and whatnot. Which is also probably why I ended up with a strong wife who has a real job. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just an expat spouse. So I continued with IBM for about 4 years. And at that time with IBM, they were going through a huge shakeup. Lou Akers, who'd been the CEO for a long time, was ousted. A Wall Street guy came in, and the whole dynamic of IBM was changing. And I mean, we were over in Tokyo, and these American directors who had been with the company 30 years are all worried about their future and about their jobs and this and that. And I'm like, oh my God. And they're coming to me whining and complaining and worried. I'm like a 24 or 5-year-old at the time. And and I'm like, Jesus, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to work for a big company and, because you could almost feel like the times are changing, that maybe lifetime careers with companies aren't the way to go anymore.
Right.
And that's when it came back to my obsession with music and entertainment and everything else. Right. And I'd already been all my time off was going to live houses in Japan and seeing bands and seeing artists and going to every show that came to Japan. Luckily with IBM too, American artists, we all got preferential treatment on ticketing. We could get it through IBM through the American embassy or whatever. So yeah, we went to Madonna and Prince and Michael Jackson and all the big bands would come. We always got to be able to go and got good seats.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I started putting out the word saying I really wanted to find a new job because they just offered me a huge job and it was really good money. Yeah. Really good money, especially for me at my age. Yeah. But I could really tell if I signed that contract, that's just the direction I'm going to go forever. Yeah. So anyways, I looked around and I had a Canadian friend who said there's a new MTV Asia program starting up and they need an English scriptwriter. So I went in, I met them on I think it was on a Friday, and talked to them and interviewed them and talked about, my passion for music, my knowledge of what's going on, my this, that. And they, had me do a test thing and I wrote out something. And then I think it was on Sunday, by that Sunday, they offered me a job and it was an 80% cut in my salary from IBM to this on a 3-month contract because they didn't know if the show would get renewed.
Right.
Monday, I put in my resignation, and I was out of there within the next week, out of IBM. And I just packed everything up and went straight into that full throttle. And it was, I was scared as hell, but I loved it. My very first day on, they said, "Oh, we're doing an interview with Edge from U2. Can you do it?" I'm like, "What? What?" I'm like, dude, that.
Oh,
and luckily,
God.
I did. Well, unfortunately, luckily, but in the end, the main reporter was able to do it.
Right.
She'd been sick and wasn't, but then finally she was able to do it. Because I'm like, I can't do this. I've never done that before in my life, and it was before the internet, right? So it's not like you can just go online and find some information.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, Jesus, how am I going to get this information about the Edge? Of course, I know the guy, I love the guy, but I don't know about all the details without sounding like an idiot. Going, "Oh, man, you're cool. Yeah."
What's your favorite song?
Right.
Oh, wow, what a great experience. So, but it didn't stop there. I mean, I'm so keen to hear about all these other stories because I've seen pictures of some of my all-time favorite bands and my dad's all-time favorite bands. So, I mean, where do you start? Where do you continue doing this? And then when did it change where you actually starting to sort of meet these bands? Like, it's crazy.
There was an underground bar in Roppongi, not far from where our studio was.
Right.
It was called YY Pips. And it was just a shithole little bar with kind of a Polynesian theme at one point, but everything was so faded you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
They just kind of had bamboo things. I think there was a faded pink flamingo at the entrance. But they had a foosball table and pinball tables and, shit drinks that were cheap. But it was the rock and roll bar that everybody had gone to through history. Right. Had been there for 17, 19 years or something like that. And so every band that tours all were told, "Hey, when you go to Tokyo, go to this place, go to this place." And so they'd all go there just that's where the safe place was to go. Even though eventually, years later, across the street, there was the Hard Rock Cafe. So, they'd kind of go in there and go, yeah, whatever, and all end up at YY Pips.
Right.
So part of it was just socializing. You just end up meeting everything. But then once I'm with MTV, then it became much more of that. And, you're in there, and one night you're with Mick Fleetwood, having, talking with him and stuff. Then you've got Hart. Then you've got, the guys from Motley Crue or Green Day or whatever. It was never ending. But I know I told you about actually, I have to do a shout out to Robin Zander from Cheap Trick because he really changed how I thought of things. Right. It was just after I'd been with MTV for, maybe 6 months or something. And it was actually my birthday party.
Wow.
He was actually at my birthday party.
Wow.
So was Hall & Oates, or that was a different one. Anyway, Robin Zander, I was talking to him, we're hanging out, we're having drinks. I think we just did some shots of absinthe, because that was the thing then. Right. We all did shots of absinthe. I got a lot of weird stories about that one. But anyways, Robin Zander, we're doing shots or whatever, and I just, all of a sudden I go, and he's looking at me, and I had a weird look on my face. And he goes, "What's up, dude?" I'm like, I just can't believe I'm sitting in the bar in Tokyo. I'm talking to Robin Zander, one of my all-time idols. And you were the band always in high school that we're all rocking to, whatever. And I'm like, I find it hard talking to you sometimes, And he said, "Let's go outside." So he took me outside on the street. And we sitting outside on the street with a beer in hand. And he's like talking to me about how, that you're part of the music industry. We need you as much as you need us.
Right.
And he lectured me. He took time out of his life to tell me how to work with artists, how to deal with artists. Right. And you don't let anybody intimidate you. If an artist intimidates you, just say, "Fuck you." Then, I'm not putting you on the TV station. Screw you. Yeah. Kind of thing, or whatever. And he gave me this whole kind of new confidence that from that point forward, that, you're right. I don't have to be bowing down or whatever. We're kind of all in the same industry. And if you want my help, let's talk like people. Mm-hmm. And that also changed my perspective in also treating them like people.
Yes.
And I was very fortunate to meet a lot of the older artists that, were big stars, kind of lost it and then came back.
Right.
Because they're much more humble and down to earth.
Yes.
Of course, you meet the Green Day guys and this and that. They're just on top of their game. And they're just totally out of their heads. Yeah. And that was fun, too.
Yes.
But also by that time when I was hanging out with them, I'd also kind of got to a level of myself.
Absolutely.
So, they all knew me. By the time they'd show up, they all knew who I was.
Right.
And, oh yeah, the guys from the crew told me to find you. Yeah, let's go. Because, I knew every club and where to go, what to do, where to find what there was to find. And then you had a request, I knew who to talk to.
So speaking of requests, I want you to tell us about the Rolling Stones and how you're just mind blowing of the Rolling Stones. Time where your wife was talking to. Tell us about that story.
Well, yeah, I was really fortunate because it was actually socializing all the time. Everybody knew me, and I was with MTV. So there was a band that was created by. It's called Nickelbag, not Nickelback, which is from near my hometown in Canada, but that's a different story. But there's Nickelbag, and that's with Steve Salas, who was originally became famous with Rod Stewart, his main guitarist.
Right.
And he later, you got to check it out. He came up with a band called Steve Salas and the Color Code, which was really amazing funk rock music. And I just love it to this day. But he teamed up with Bernard Fowler, who, anytime you've seen Rolling Stones the last 20 years on stage, he's this big 6'5" black dude with big curly hair, with the voice of an angel.
Right.
But this guy is awesome. He's just such a cool dude.
Yes.
And so anyway, these two teamed up and created a band called Nickelbag, and they worked together in Tokyo. They wanted to shoot a music video, so they flew over Chris Hafner, who was famous in film school doing all the Ozzy Osbourne videos.
Right.
So then he hired me as producer, and then we became a unit, and we did a music video with them. But luckily, because of that, then I got exposed to the whole Rolling Stones family.
Wow.
And so next thing I know, I'm hanging out with Bernard, who's like, hey, man. And next thing then I'm on the tour buses, going every night with the Stones to the shows. And the one night, my wife is with me, and we're sitting there, and then, everybody piles into the bus, and this guy sits in front of us and turns around and starts, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, this is my girlfriend. It was like, so he starts talking, oh, you're from Thailand, and talks to her all about Thailand, how cool Thailand is, and this and that, how he likes to visit, and, really nice conversation between them. I didn't say a word from that point, and everybody, we get to the Tokyo Dome, everyone piles out of the bus, and then my wife turns to me and goes, wow, he was such a nice guy. What a nice fellow. Who's that? And I'm like, oh, that's Keith Richards. He's about to go up on stage, man. But again, it's another one of those lessons. The last thing a lot of these guys want is somebody go, oh my God.
Absolutely.
We're just people.
Yeah. And especially when they're rock stars and everybody's doing that every day, they just want someone to speak to you and just talk to you naturally. I've also seen pictures here of Ozzy and Sharon,
Right, yeah.
And you organised a birthday.
No, I was actually with Rolling Stones. I organized a birthday party for Ron Wood's wife.
Oh, right.
Just because I was in with the band, and they just kind of said, hey, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. So we did a birthday party for Ron Wood's wife at the Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. It was so much fun. I gotta look somewhere. I have video tapes of that.
Right.
Because at one point, Bernard Fowler got up and was singing Little Red Rooster, just walking from table to table to table.
Yes.
And we're there with the Stones and the whole crew, and it was incredible.
Wow.
It was the only time I actually got close to Mick Jagger, tried to take a photo. He told me to fuck off. I take that as an honor. All right. I understand. That was the only time I kind of, as a groupie kind of guy, go, can I get a photo with you? Fuck off. Okay. All right. Mick Jagger told me to fuck off. Yeah.
I think that you can take that as a compliment,
Exactly.
really.
Who else had that opportunity?
That's right.
But no, yeah, the dinner with Ozzy Osbourne, that was a lot of fun. At that time, I used to actually have long hair. Now I don't have hair. But I had long hair, and I'd just come back from London. I'd produced the Primal Scream live from Brighton Beach.
Right.
But anyways, so I'd been there, and I was at Camden Town, and I bought these old spectacles that were like from early 1900s, the round ones with the wire things you wrap around your ears. And I got them customized with prescription with sunglasses, and they were brown tinted. And so I walked into Hard Rock Cafe with this long curly hair, these round glasses tinted, and I walk into Hard Rock Cafe, and all these Japanese kids come running up to me, Ozzy, 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 and ask me for autograph. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm in my 20s, man. What the hell? I'm like, I'm not Ozzy Osbourne. I'm going to meet Ozzy for dinner. And anyways, when I go up to have dinner, it is kind of funny because if you've seen the picture, me and Ozzy look like, my Uncle Ozzy.
Yeah.
He's got the long hair, same kind of glasses. His were blue tinted, mine were brown tinted.
Yes.
But anyway, so yeah, the funny thing is, so we're having dinner. It was part of a radio promotion. They were awarding him with an award and whatnot. And anyways, they sent me right across from Ozzy Osbourne, who has been my rock god forever.
Yes.
And in fact, the problem is growing up in Canada, like Ozzy never seemed to perform where I was.
Yeah, right.
All of his tours always got canceled, and also it's a religious area, and there's a lot of religious groups, this and that. So I had bought 3 different tickets to Ozzy shows that all got canceled. So I never got to see him live. I was really, really pissed off. But anyway, so I'm sitting across from Ozzy Osbourne, and I was just like shaking, nervous. It was one of those few times you're really starstruck because you're having dinner with Ozzy and his wife Sharon. And you're like, yeah. And so, he goes, so hi, Ozzy, nice to meet you, blah, blah. And of course, Ozzy, and oh my God, I literally thought I was going to shit myself. Because I'm across the table from someone I look at as a god, and he's talking to me in tongues, and I can't understand what he's saying. And thank God that Sharon was sitting next to him. Because Sharon goes, oh, Grant, Ozzy would like to know, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh! And then I reply to him, and then Ozzy back, and I'd look over to Sharon, and then Sharon would tell me, and then I'd reply. It was such a wild experience. It was brilliant.
Wow.
And thank you, Sharon, for being there.
Thank you, Sharon. She's been the lifesaver for that boy for a long time. I hope he's doing all right too. I heard he's cerebral palsy now or something like that.
Yeah. He had a bit of a fall. I actually talked to one of his tour guys just last year and said he was doing much better.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, it was actually it's his official tech guy was here doing a show for Secret Cinema 007. Right. They did a whole thing. And so their tech team from London, he's actually Ozzy's personal tech guy. So he had just been with Ozzy and then flew over and we started talking about old reminiscing. And
right.
He was like, oh, I was just with Ozzy. I think he cracked an ankle or something, but he's all good. He had a fall and everything seems fine. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And speaking of Ozzy, my dad especially is a huge Kiss fan. And I've taken him to, as I've got older, I've taken him to the Kiss shows. And, I seen pictures there with you and Paul Stanley. Yeah. So you were backstage one time. Can you tell us about that story?
Well, yeah, luckily through my connections, I actually set it up for us to film Kiss live from Budokan.
Oh.
And yeah, it was a huge coup for me to kind of put all that together. So I went there with a film crew and we did interviews the day before, but sadly Gene was sick with the flu. So, but I did, I got Paul Stanley and we got to hang out and later we kind of became, friends, but we knew each other. So whenever he'd come to town, we'd always hang out. We always went to a certain hostess whole dance club together. We always went there. One Eye Jacks, any of you out there, you'll know One Eye Jacks. And eventually when I had my own martini bar, he'd always come and hang out at the martini bar for that. Really super nice guy. Incredibly nice guy. The sad thing is, I had a lot of fun at the concert. Of course, I'm backstage. Actually, before the show, I knew the tech guys, so they took me up on stage, and I got to hold Gene Simmons' battle axe bass and his flaming sword. I think I have a photo of me with a flaming sword on stage, and got to see all the gear and everything else before the show, and then we set up the cameras. Sadly, though, at the end of the concert, everything got confiscated because Gene Simmons wasn't feeling well and he was spewing kind of fluids everywhere while he was singing, which I just thought that's natural. I mean, Gene Simmons is always spewing.
That's right.
But sadly, yeah, those are some of the lost tapes. They physically sent out security and went around to every camera and ejected and stole the tapes. And there was nothing we could do about it.
Wow.
Yeah, that kind of sucked. But
That'd be priceless.
yeah.
Someone's got it.
Yeah, well, that's it. Somewhere I'm waiting for the underground thing. I'm like, wait a minute. Give me credit for that. I want credit.
Wow. So, you're talking about the bar that you had.
Yeah.
What was the bar?
It's called G Martinis.
G Martinis.
G Martinis,
right?
yeah.
And that's where all the big rock stars would go, right?
Later on, I mean, this was after I'd finished MTV. Everything. This was like 10 years later.
Right. Okay.
This is actually after I left MTV. I started my own film company with a Canadian.
So what was the reason why you left MTV?
Big reason was, okay, that's a long story. What had happened was, because of I'm a business guy, right? And I look for opportunities.
Yeah.
What had happened is I decided to go off to some of these different shows to find new programming. Because the station where I was actually with, it's called Space Shower TV. It's the #1 music video station in Japan. And through that, we were making all the MTV Asia programs.
Right.
So that's the thing. We were actually, I was official MTV, and then later it evolved into Channel V, because MTV ended in Asia, and then it became Star TV, Channel V.
Yes.
So I was actually part of that whole transition process. So in my cabinet in there, I have my mic cubes from MTV, and I have them from Channel V too.
Right. I still think we have a Channel V in Australia still.
Yes, Channel V is still going strong.
Yeah.
So Space Shower TV, again, it was the powerhouse in Japan.
Right.
Because Japanese music is 70% of the market is Japanese. Only 30% was foreign.
Right. That's
It's such a huge market. And that's also why they contacted us as Space Shower TV, because we dealt with all the Japanese artists and the foreign. So the program we were making for MTV Asia was called Music Update Tokyo. And it was all about Japanese underground music, fashion, subculture, everything else, which was great because, again, I got to go to met every Japanese band and these shitty little clubs and this and that and whatnot. It was fabulous. But also because of my role as the only foreigner, then that's when I also had, got to deal with all the artists. Wow. And so what ended up happening is, I started getting involved with what was going on and, teaching myself the ropes and how to do things. And I started working my way up. And what eventually happened is Space Shower is owned by Itochu, huge company. And the CEO asked me to look over some presentations they were going to do to, I think it was Warner Music at the time.
No.
And so they sent me this PowerPoint presentation. I went through it. And I said, can I actually talk about this? So I went up and met the CEO, and I kind of changed everything. And the whole plot, the whole plan, everything else.
Wow.
And they're just like, who the hell do you think you are? Who are you to tell us about this and that? And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's just in my previous job. And then what previous job? And I'm like, I used to work for IBM, and this is what I did. I made presentations for worldwide, blah, blah, blah. And so next thing I know, the president's like, whoa, what are you doing down there writing scripts? Like, you should be involved in other areas.
Yeah.
And so he encouraged me to start doing things. So that's where eventually, we did some international stuff. And through my connections in Tokyo, I actually ended up producing the filming of the 100th anniversary concert, 100th anniversary Gibson Guitar concert at Wembley Arena in London.
Wow.
With the Prince's Trust Fund and all that stuff. And it was just, again, I'm just falling over myself doing these things. The thing is, I knew the Gibson guys in Japan. I was working with them on all kinds of stuff. I started doing promotions with them on our TV station. That's why I've got a bunch of Gibson guitars and Epiphones around here. And they're all gifts.
Uh-huh.
But it's because of my connections with them. There was a rumor that for this Gibson Guitar 100th anniversary, there was going to be a Led Zeppelin reunion.
Wow.
Right? With, Bottom Son on drums and all that. So there's a big rumor. So I found out this rumor. I went right away to my bosses and told them about it and everything else. And so apparently it was really weird. The Led Zeppelin dropped out, so nobody else seemed to give a shit about the concert. It's still Gibson Guitar 100th anniversary.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Slash, we got David Gilmour, we've got, all these, Zach Wilde.
Yeah.
All these big guys are coming out to perform. And nobody seemed interested, but our team was. So I ended up putting the whole team together. We hired Fleetwood Mobile Music, in London, and we shot and produced this whole concert. And it was incredible. It was, oh God, I still can't believe how I did it.
Yeah.
But luckily I had really good Japanese partners and teams in Space Shadow. There's Toshiochi, and Bong, his nickname is Bong. But they were the key guys. And so I did the business side, they handled the production side, and next thing you know, we're in London doing this stuff. And because of that, then I started reaching out more and more. And at one point, we're in Hong Kong at, it was Meet Asia, which is the big thing about TV companies selling shows. Yeah. And I remember, I don't want to get in trouble, but it was David Allender, the president of Polygram. Right. I went and had meetings with him, and they wanted to sell us the British Music Awards, the Brit Awards. So, we were having a meeting or whatever, and they wanted, I think it was something like £100,000. And I just went to him, I said, actually, no, I'm sorry, I want you to let us to get the show for free. Because, no offense, but the Brit Awards, nobody knows what the Brit Awards are in Japan. Yeah. Nobody's even heard of it. Yeah. Frankly, I don't really know it. We all know American Music Awards and all this stuff. And the Grammys went up, but we don't. And so I said, if you give it to us for free for the first year, and then we'll promote it, we'll do a big show, and then the next year, of course, we can talk about it.
Negotiate, yeah.
And Leo literally, he told me, fuck you, get the fuck out of my office. Fuck off. And I'm like, all right. And I mean, what did I care? It was, our station didn't have the money. Yeah. We couldn't afford to invest in that. And to be honest, nobody knew what it was. So I went off, did our other business, selling our show to other stations. Yes. And it was about a month or so later, I got a fax, which I still have somewhere from Polygram in the UK saying, Mr. Ellender would like to discuss your terms for the Brit Awards.
Wow.
So I ended up getting the British Music Awards, I think it was the 96 Brit Awards, for free for Japan. And then me and my team, guys, we went over and we did all the backstage interviews. So we got all their feeds and the broadcast, but then we were backstage and got to do all the interviews with, I met Sir Elton John. Oh, wow. And that, which was kind of funny because, I love the guy, kind of, Anyways, the interview, he goes, I'm going, where's Elton? I go to turn around, I almost knocked him over. He's not a big guy. Yeah, right. He's a big guy in stature, but not physically, right? Yes. And I'm a big guy, and I almost knocked him over. Didn't start off well. But sadly, the interview, it was a nice interview, whatever, but unfortunately, I think he'd just been going through a lot of publicity problems. So we would ask him a question, he'd look to the manager would tell him what to answer, and he'd answer. And I'm like, okay, it's one of these days, all right.
Yes.
But it was fun. It was backstage, so I got to drink and have a hamburger with Tom Jones and Cyndi Lauper, and I got to wave at Sting. He wouldn't come in, and Madonna's over there, and at the end of the hall was the press conference with Prince, saying he's no longer known as Prince.
Oh,
and we're all going, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? He's no longer whatever, but it was a really
known or something.
Yeah, it was a wild experience.
Wow.
But I was going to say, another, throwing out names again, one of the coolest experiences was doing the Gibson Guitar concert, because when I thought about the Hard Rock Cafe, is Hard Rock always has hospitality for the artists at all these events we did in London. Always. Hard Rock has a big tent or something set up. So I'm in the Hard Rock Cafe tent. I was just, with Bret Michaels. That was it. Bret Michaels.
Yes, Bret Michaels.
Just finished with him. And I'm sitting down and ordering a hamburger and a beer. And Brian May comes and sits next to me. And he's like, hey, I hear you're from Tokyo, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah. And I sat and had a burger with Brian May. And it's just like, wow. And he was just such a cool guy.
Yes.
He's an amazing down-to-earth guy. My friend who worked for Hollywood Records would tell me a story later when I was telling him about this. He goes, yeah, there's one time Brian May came. He came to my house and helped me wash my car. And I'm like, what? He says, yeah, he was just in town. He wanted to come over. I said, I'm washing my car. He said, oh, come over. And he said, they were just washing his car and hanging out and talking. And that's just the way, when I get into these stories, so many people tell me the same thing about him.
Yeah.
Just such a nice guy.
They just say he's a gentle, nice guy.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Wow. So you've gone through the rock royalty, but
so sorry. Yeah, what happened is with this story is so we did the Brit Awards. We ended up doing it, showed it in Japan. It had the highest ratings they'd ever had in the history of the station.
Wow.
But I had created some waves in some other areas, and basically the Japanese producers above me were a little connected. Didn't like that I'd kind of gone above them because of my relationship with the president or whatever. So basically it came to me at one point saying, Grant, you served a beautiful 7-course meal. This was translated in Chinese or Japanese. 7-course meal. But you know what? It was tasty, it was beautiful, but we want you to peel potatoes. So basically I'd outshone things, and so they basically wanted me to go back to laying cables. Literally laying cables and not being involved in stuff. And I'm just like, okay, fine. I mean, I was still on the other TV show for MTV Asia, and we're doing that. And I just said, okay, that's fine, that's cool. And so I talked to all my team members, and they all were tired of it there too and what was going on. So I went through and I found all my guys new jobs.
Wow.
So my main director, Toshi, he went off to work for Channel V in Hong Kong. Ken Shimura, he went off to Sony. Bong went off to another production company. And as soon as I landed them all jobs, I just said, thank you guys, I quit. Right. And I walked out.
Right.
And that was it. Because the thing is for me, is I always protect my people.
Yes.
Right? It's not about me, it's about the team. Because I could never have done it without them.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And we all kind of decided as a team, you know what? We've gone as far as any of us can here. Let's do something new. Let's find a new challenge. And so we all agreed as a team, let's do it. But I wouldn't leave until everyone had a new job.
Wow.
And then we all went our ways. Yeah.
That shows your loyalty and for your team and
it's
of
always
respect.
Well, and it's always been a personal personal mantra for me is to protect my artists.
Yes.
Because most artists are not treated well.
Yes, of course.
And they get screwed over all the time. And they get paid like shit, and they get treated like shit. And that's why, too, when it comes to the Pearl, my artists, they're most important to me.
Yes.
In a lot of ways, my partners might like it, but in a lot of ways, my artists are more important than the business. Because without the artists, we have no business.
Exactly.
So if they don't feel treated well and respected, then how can we do the business we're doing?
Yes. Oh, you can tell, definitely. We're watching it the other night. They're all professional. They're ready to go. So my next question is: so you quit this amazing job. You're on cloud 9. So where does this take you into China, and why China?
Well, eventually, I don't know. We'd been in Japan 15 years.
Right.
Honestly, I'd been burned out. I kind of had enough. I'd actually gotten out of production. I was just had my martini bar and whatnot, and that was just kind of the ends of the ends. And it was a great time, but I don't know. I could feel like enough is enough. So luckily, my wife, who, when we left IBM, I went down the creative MTV way. Luckily, she went the corporate path.
Right.
And did Hitachi, and then has been with SAP, German software company, for 20 odd years.
Yes.
So she was offered a huge position here to move their labs division from Japan to Shanghai.
Oh, cool.
So she was actually offered here or something in Europe. And I just said, no, China.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to come to China, again, for the history and everything else.
Yes.
And also, I just saw it as a whole new opportunity. Because the one thing, too, with my wife and I is, I also realize it's nice for us to be in a third country. So I'm an English speaker. She's Thai, who speaks fluent English, and Japanese and Chinese. She's friggin' brilliant.
Wow.
But I figured if we end up in Europe, or that I'll be comfortable, she'll be on edge maybe, or this or that. So that's the other reason why we wanted to come to China, is because then we're stuck together fighting. Yeah, we don't know what's going on. Yeah. So together we have to be a team and learn Chinese, which she did better. I haven't so well. But, that was the whole thing too, is we wanted to go to China because it was it was a challenge for us. We're still young, and it was a whole new opportunity.
Yes.
And so that's what brought us here.
So when did you come to China?
I arrived Valentine's Day 2006. Yeah. So I just had my 15-year anniversary. Woo, woo, woo. And so when we got here, I had nothing to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Right.
I was burned out from running a film company. I was fried. But I'd always wanted to learn still photography.
Yes.
Because the one thing I've learned too over the years at that time is, a photo is really eternal. You get a photo and they say a photo's worth 1,000 words, right? But it's people, when you look at a photo, you look at it. When you watch a video, you just kind of watch a video and it's gone.
Yes.
And with the video experience, I realized that, people would give me these shitty videos and I edit them and effects and you make it look great.
Yes.
But to find the time and energy to find that perfect photo, that's something special. Yes. And I could do it on my own.
Yes, true.
I didn't need a sound guy, a lighting guy, and all this other stuff. And that's why also I'm not a studio photographer. It's the same way I hated doing studio work with MTV. I want to shoot live stuff. I want to be out in the crowds, out on the streets, doing crazy things.
You were still in the crowd there the other night.
Yeah, right.
Fixing up the stage, and people were jumping up and...
Yeah, I'm still a hands-on kind of guy. Can't help it. So anyways, what happened is I took... photography lessons with 8 expat wives every Friday afternoon.
Right.
Well, they were all bringing photos of kids and dogs and whatnot. We had just did a trip to Japan during Christmas, and I brought back these photos using kind of one of my MTV techniques of playing with lights, like moving lights, but stills images, and I kind of created a style. And anyways, it was photos of these African tribal guys with these like rattan kind of skirts and outfits, dancing with Japanese Santa girls and little Santa tiny bikinis. Because only in Japan would you mix the two together. And so I brought these photos, and all the housewives like, "You're so cool. We want to hang out with you." And my teacher was going, she actually said, "How did you do that? How did you get this lighting effect with everything else?" And I explained it to her, and I'm like, "Wow, that's really cool."
Yes.
And luckily what happened is some of my DJs, especially my best friend DJ Tavo, had actually moved from Japan to Beijing, found out I was here, so he moved to Shanghai, and then I started touring with him in all the clubs, and just, with him playing and me just playing with the camera, I started creating new ways of shooting, and then next thing I know, the clubs started hiring me, Smart Shanghai here in Shanghai started hiring me, and other websites. And then I just became, I'd be shooting 6 to 9 clubs a night often. Right. I would just hit, my friends always joke at me because it was way before WeChat and all that existed. So I would actually go through, find all the addresses, print them out on a list. So I'd have my list of addresses, where we go next, check. And then show the taxi driver, okay, now we're going this one, check. So I was doing all the events stuff. And one night it was at... Mao Club, which later became Hollywood, which is closed now. But a guy from Ferrari, Carl Gigarden, the guy was too handsome for one man. I hated working for him, but he was a great guy. French, beautiful voice, handsome blue eyes.
Right.
I'm like, I love being next to him because the girls just flock, right? But anyways, he was looking for a foreign photographer who could understand what they wanted, because they just weren't having the luck with the local photographers to get that kind of vibe and what they needed. So he approached me and said, "Hey, are you the guy from Smart Shanghai, G Martini?" I said, "Yeah, that's me." So he gave me his card, and then 4 months later, I got a phone call and saying, "Hey, F1 is coming to town. We have some VIP events with the drivers and Jet Li, and all these other celebrities. We want you. Can you put a team together?" So I got my friend Jackson, and we went and shot it. Of course, actually, when I dropped the phone, getting that phone call, I just ran around the apartment screaming, doing the happy dance. And I couldn't believe it. But we shot the event. It went well. And then he asked me to shoot their driving school, Pilote driving school. And so I went out there, and it was literally me, the foreigner, against a team of 5 Chinese shooting. So I think they had 3 photographers, a producer and an editor or something. So it was me against 5, and I was trying to work as a team. I thought it was a team. Hey, let's do this, and I'll do this. And they were just like, get out of my way. You do your thing, I'll do my thing. And I didn't realize it was actually a competition. They had been doing it. But then the foreigner wanted me to come in and do my style. And I guess it worked well because then the Chinese bosses said, yeah, we want this guy.
Right.
I probably ended up, in hindsight, my budgets probably was the same. Those poor guys were getting us the total. I feel bad for that, but it was just one of these things too. I've learned over the years where, again, my business background helped my creativity.
Yes.
Because I was looking at it from the client perspective, Ferrari perspective. All these other newbies or people who are coming in, they're just obsessed with, I'm going to shoot the greatest picture ever of a Ferrari car and I'm going to be amazing and this and that. And it's like, dude, it's Ferrari. They have professionals in Italy shooting the car.
Yeah.
They don't care about the perfect shot of the car. They have that.
That's right.
They want to see local customers with the car.
Yes.
And that was my whole focus. And not only that, but anytime you'd have the local customers with the Italian instructors and they're talking about how to drive and this and that, I would always get it so that I'd have a Ferrari logo in the background, right?
Got it,
You
yeah.
know, all you have to do is you have to think before you shoot.
Yes.
And you angle this or angle that. And you never ask them to move, you move. And that was the whole thing, is I just found this way of always getting like a little subtle Ferrari there, a happy customer with an Italian driver and this and that. And then also with them in their cars and shooting. And the whole key was always trying to get them having fun with the car.
Right.
Because again, I mean, just going out and shooting the car by yourself, come on, guys.
Common sense, isn't it?
Well, you would think.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
again, everybody has their different perspective.
Yes.
And so, and you'd have a lot of the photographers were studio guys. So they had, the perfect this, the perfect that. I'm like, guys, you don't have time. There is no time. You can't have a customer stand there and you try to move the light and whatever. No, they all have a schedule. You don't have time to screw around. You got to be on the fly. And that's my specialty. I love action.
Yes.
And in later years too, I had a lot of studio guys come up to me and go, I don't know how you can do this. Because, they have to be so anal in how to prepare everything and spend 8 hours to prepare for one shot. Yeah. And me, I have 8 seconds, if that, to figure out where this is going, how this is going, how to line things up and shoot. But that's all I want.
Yes.
If I have to spend those 8 hours preparing for one shot, it's going to be my brains on the back of the wall. No, I'm out of here. I can't do that. And I respect that they can do that. I can't.
Yes.
I just want to keep going and going and going.
That's right.
But it also would cause me to shoot, honestly, I would shoot between 9 to I think most was 25,000 photos in one day when we were shooting racing or that, because you're just shooting nonstop.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is because with a Ferrari Challenge Racing, you'd have 20 to sometimes it was over 40 racers. Right. And the thing is, you want to shoot it for the media about the overall event, but you also have to respect you've got 40 some drivers who all want a picture.
Right.
So it's just me. So that's the thing. I'm shooting nonstop. And of course, I want to get the nice, cool shot, the nice, car on 2 wheels coming around the corner, or the fire of the brakes, because they have ceramic brakes. So when they brake, they go on fire. So I'm showing you later these glowing shots. They're just gorgeous. And you got to get that, but you also got to get the shot of every single car. Even the guy who's driving the slowest. You got to get a good shot of him. And, try and do a slow pan to make it look like he's going really fast. Because you want to give respect to every single driver.
Yes. Wow.
And again, that's the mindset you have to have is, it's not about you. It's not about you. When you're working with these corporate clients, it's not about you. It's about them.
Yeah.
And where are these photos going to go? And who's going to be happy? Okay. And that's the thing is, if you have every driver gets a set of photos, they're going to be happy. Yes. And they're going to send compliments to Ferrari going, keep this guy. Yes. Of course, having the red beard helped me too, right?
Oh, come on. Yeah, tell us, everybody, about the red beard. That was one of my questions.
Oh, the red beard?
Tell us the red beard.
Yeah.
It's not every day I see a person in Shanghai, especially with a red beard. It's got like a dime bag. Dime bag used to have a little goatee, Pantera. But is there a story behind this?
Yeah. Yeah, a story that shows my maturity. So So my son grew up in Canada,
Right.
but he would spend summers visiting us all in Tokyo. And one summer he came over, and he showed up, picked him up at the airport, and he's got green hair. Total surprise. He's like 11 years old. What else do you expect? So yeah, he came to Tokyo with green hair. I didn't say anything. I just laughed along. Like, my wife's going, what? I'm like, just whatever.
Let him go.
Yeah, whatever. So it was the following spring, I was actually going to be shooting a TV commercial in Vancouver, and it was about the time of his birthday. And so what I decided is that after the commercial, I'll fly to Calgary, and I went to his school and had him called down to the principal's office. And so my son, his name's on the intercom, so he comes down to the principal's office, going, oh shit, what did I get caught for this time? Really worried. And then he sees me, and he's like, oh my God, Dad flew from Tokyo. What did I do? And he's like, literally going, what did I do? What did I do? And I'm like, no, kid, don't worry. Calm down, man. Your birthday's coming up. I wanted to surprise you. I'm here for the week. Let's go and hang out. But I said before, like, I want to go and see your teacher's room. See your classes, meet your teacher, and everything else. So we're walking down the hall, and my son's looking up at me. And I'm like, hey, what's up, kid? And he's like, Dad, you got a green beard. I said, hey, you came to Tokyo with green hair. Right back at you, kid. And that was the whole reason I did it, was just to burn him.
And you kept it.
Oh, yeah. And because, again, I'm working then, in the music industry and everything else, so it worked. So I went green and blue and purple and every kind of color I could do. And in fact, when we had our film company, Magic Bus, we just started working for Adidas. And we did a big, huge launch, the official launch of Adidas Japan. It was a massive, massive project. And so I did my beard blue, but I also shaved my head and had the Adidas logo in blue stripes on my head, so that when I greeted everybody, hey, and I would bend over, it would be Adidas logo.
Right.
And the president and CEO later became a really good friend, just came up and go, you went beyond the call of duty. That's it. You guys get the contract.
Yeah.
And so then we ended up with $1 million contract doing all the corporate videos for Adidas Japan.
Right.
And it was amazing. But the follow-up to that story was, it was also just before I went to Thailand to get married.
Right.
And so I showed up in Thailand with the blue, my hat and everything else. And my future mother-in-law was going, he's going to shave that, right? He's not going to go through the wedding with that, right? My mother-in-law is awesome. Her and I tease each other all the time. We might not be able to talk, but we make fun of each other, like always playing jokes on each other. Yeah. And anyways, I just said to her, I said, no, the wedding's sponsored by Adidas. I have to keep this. And so I kept the logo on my head until the morning of the wedding. Right. And then I shaved it off in the morning.
She would have been sweating bullets.
Yeah.
Grant, let's get close to wrapping it up here.
Oh, yeah.
I think we can talk for another 2 or 3 hours. We should do it at some time. But tell me, what does the future hold for Grant?
Yeah, I mean, the future is, it goes back to where we wandered off. Sorry, I keep wandering everywhere.
That's all right.
Too much. No, the future is with the Pearl now with our new licensing.
Yes.
I'm really hoping that we want to take the band on tours, maybe team up with other venues where we can do shows there on an ongoing basis. But also, I really want to get back to the whole music festival idea.
Right.
Creating music festivals, and not just, I don't want to criticize other festivals, because there have been a lot of festivals that happen in China, and a lot of them started off but kind of died off. And I know there's a lot of it's to do with regulations, this, that, our acts, whatnot. But also I find like the festivals I've been to here, boring. They're just, it's a stage, music. If you want a beer, you often have to go out and walk down the street to a 7-Eleven and carry it back in through security. Yeah. Yada, yada, yada. But no, I want to create more of a immersive music arts festival.
Yes.
So a place where you've got the music, you will have like a marketplace too. You will have like arts and crafts people selling thing, making thing, all kinds of mom and pop food shops, like little people who can't afford the restaurant, but they'll have some unique food, different flavors from all over the world, as well as working with the burlesque girls to do workshops, working with the zero gravity pole dancing school to do some workshops out there, have my drag queens doing things. All kind of a fully immersive art kind of festival is my ultimate dream and goal. And that's what I'm working on right now. In fact, right after here, I've got some meetings with some fire performers and whatnot to talk to them about this whole concept. Can we bring it together? And now with the COVID, with the borders being closed, we'll start off small. I want to do one small, maybe 2 or 3 smaller festivals within this year if I can. But eventually build up the reputation, the knowledge, the expertise to then expand, where the ultimate goal is 3 or 4 years from now, doing a Fuji Rock style festival here in Shanghai with some big headliners and bring my MTV contacts to fruition and say, come on, let's do this.
Wow.
Let's do this. I really, that's my ultimate goal in 3 to 4 years. I really hope we can get to that.
And I hope just for the people here in Shanghai and in China, you can do that. So they just get shut off by all this really good music and not just music, entertainment in general.
Yeah.
And I really hope that you can do that and you can get some bands in, and I think it'd be amazing for the country. And so.
And thanks. I mean, I really feel there's a market for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The younger generation are so into it. And I mean, even the older generation.
Yes.
Again, I'm an old guy. I like the classic rock. Yeah. And what I love is the old people here do and the young people do. And the funny thing is, again, thank God for Marvel Universe and teaching the new people an Iron Man movie what AC/DC is. And, all these songs. They're like, what's this new band?
Yes.
And I've had to actually add that into my advertising. When I'm promoting the AC/DC shows, I'm like, as played in Iron Man, this and that.
Right. All right, and Grant, tell us finally, where can we find the Pearl? Like your social medias and any sort of promotion you want to talk about?
Well, no, the Pearl is in Hong Kong. Everyone thinks it's far away, but it's really not. It's a 10-minute walk, literally to the Bund.
Yeah.
You walk over the bridge, walk past Bellagio Hotel. 10 minutes, you're at 471 Zapu Lu. Or you can take the Sichuan Bay Lu.
That's it.
It's really easy to get to. I live in French Concession. It's a 10-minute taxi ride because you take the Waitan Tunnel.
That's right.
It's easy to get to.
Yeah.
As far as promotion, no, we have a lot of stuff going on, but we're on social media. We're on WeChat, Facebook, Instagram, Weibo.
Yeah. And you can get tickets. Where can you get your tickets?
Tickets are, they're everywhere. We got them on Smart Shanghai, 247, Damai, Maoyin. We're on 11 different ticketing sites. Plus, you can also just contact the Pearl directly or find me, Redbeard, Hong Hutsu. I'm happy to help.
All right. Excellent. All right, Grant. Like I said, we could have talked for another 2 or 3 hours. I've made it a goal this year that I'm gonna come to more shows this year. Amazing life. Continue what you're doing. You're making lots of people happy, and I wish you all the best for the future. And I hope, fingers crossed, that you get this, the big festivals for China.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Craig.
Not a worry.
Thanks, man.